I can't send my mom certain videos, or she can't send me certain videos. And so we leave
Buy your mom an iPhone.
Buying an iPhone is the first step in what essentially becomes a very expensive, but arguably a very enjoyable experience.
They say, oh my God, I see the way.
I've likely spent tens of thousands of pounds on Apple products.
Take your hand, my dear, and place them both in mine.
The iPhone is the gateway drug.
I was passing by.
Is it extremely difficult to simply switch you from just an iPhone to something that's not an iPhone? Absolutely.
Dance for me, dance for me, dance for me, oh, oh. I never seen anybody do the things you do before.
If you are interested in switching away from an Android phone to an iPhone, then you've come to the right place. Hey, my name is Pete, and over the last 4 years or so, I've been reviewing all of the latest and greatest tech, from flip and foldable phones to flagship slab phones, and also, yes, iPhones. Now, I used to be a lifelong iPhone user who actually switched to the S24 Ultra about 9 or 10 months ago or so. And now, with the launch of the iPhone 16, I am basically the guy who now carries 2 phones with me.
I got 2 phones.
So I'd like to think that I have a fairly balanced opinion as to the benefits of switching to an iPhone. Now, in this video, I want to help you see what it's actually like being an Apple user, like the benefits, and of course, some of the drawbacks, and help you decide whether you want to give Apple a go when switching away from an Android phone. So let's start off with probably the most obvious benefit of switching to the iPhone and just Apple in general, and that is, of course, that one word, the ecosystem. Because this is still one area that Apple just trumps everything. But stop, before you get those pitchforks out and are in the comment section just telling me how wrong I am, just let me explain. Now, Android has a great ecosystem. You can buy products from almost any brand, and for the most part, they work great. You know, you can buy an S24 Ultra or a Galaxy Watch Ultra, a Galaxy Ring, and you get some benefits on saving battery life when using them all together, but nothing really comes close to Apple. Like being able to airdrop files to my Mac and my iPad and my other friends' iPhones, using my Apple Watch to control the camera on my iPhone, to Apple's Find My network to locate almost any Apple device, and their AirTags, which have allowed people to literally track packages in the air mid-flight, or to setting up an Apple Watch for my kids with a data SIM in it, but without the need for them to have their own mobile phone, so I can still message them, I can still track them where they are, to using my iPhone as a remote control for my Apple TV, and using it to type in passwords or search for shows rather than, using the fiddly on-screen keyboard, to picking up a pair of stupidly overpriced AirPods Max headphones and have them switch to whatever Apple devices I happen to be holding at that very moment, or to pick them up when watching TV, and now I can use them to watch my TV or movie in absolute silence. Now, I know. Other devices can do this as well. You can buy a pair of Sonos Ace headphones and buy the right Sonos soundbar, and you can do a similar thing. Or you can quick share between Android devices, which is actually faster than AirDrop in my experience, but where you can pick out, individual circumstances where, well, Android does that. And if you buy that product and those combination of products, then that does it too. Apple just does this because, well, Apple devices are everywhere. And Apple makes all of those devices instead of like hundreds of thousands of other Android manufacturers. Now, one of the biggest challenges I've had with Android is the sheer amount of choice that you have. You've got Google Pay or Samsung Pay, Google Fitness, Samsung Health, OnePlus O Health. Just everyone has their own apps and their own ecosystem that in some cases is actually hard to get it all talking to each other. Like take their health and fitness stuff, for example. I have health insurance, which gives me practically a free Apple Watch, providing I do like 30 minutes worth of exercise 5 times a week. And all of that has to be logged back to either Apple Health or Google Health or Samsung Health or maybe even Garmin. So when I picked up a OnePlus watch, which I really liked, which then used its own O Health app, I used it for like a week before then realizing I wasn't able to log any of my workouts to Vitality because it didn't write its data to any of the, the main, like the well-known apps. So I had to stop using it. Whereas on Apple, it doesn't matter if you're using a Whoop or an Aura or an Ultra Human Ring or an 8 Sleep mattress. Basically, everything talks back to Apple Health because, well, that's the only real option. So it's all in one place, one app to check literally like everything. And so then that takes me on to the big difference between, of course, Android and iOS, and that's, of course, the software experience. Now, with Android, you do get a lot of freedom to do practically anything you want. You can download apps like Good Lock that even take that customization beyond what is built in. I can customize my keyboard to look and work practically any way I want. Whereas with Apple, you don't quite get that level of customization. It's definitely improving as they catch up to Android over the years, but it's still not quite there. Now, the biggest thing that frustrates me that after using a flagship Android phone where I've been able to go into the developer settings and reduce the animation speeds down to like 0.5x, and then when I pick up an iPhone, it just feels really slow. Like the animations, whilst they are very nice animations, you can't speed them up. And then when copying and pasting something, it can take multiple taps on an iPhone and just takes much longer than it takes on an Android phone that's just like literally a single tap away. And when doing simple things like, opening up my password manager, you have to kind of wait whilst the Face ID animation thing does its thing. Whereas by that time, you'd have already copied and pasted the password over on an Android phone by then. And speaking of which, a huge thank you to 1Password for sponsoring this video. Now, iOS 18 does include a new standalone password manager app. And I've heard so many people say, oh, so I don't need a password manager app now, do I? But I would still highly recommend something like 1Password over Apple's own app because it just offers so much more than the built-in app. Like with 1Password, I can switch between Android, iOS, Windows, even Linux if I really, really wanted to, and still access all of my usernames, my passwords, but also my credit card information, passport and ID, and just so much more is stored in 1Password than what you can store in just other regular built-in password managers. Now I actually have a family account, so I can store passwords for my wife and then store them in the family area. So then she can log into things. Otherwise I literally constantly have to deal with her forgetting passwords. Sometimes that's for really important places too. So yeah, it's really, really useful. Now I do actually share 1Password with my team as well, so I can share logins to various YouTube tools and systems, including two-factor authentication codes. It is literally one of the very few apps which I use every single day of the week. I also love the keyboard shortcut on the Mac to quickly bring up and then copy and paste just the username or password without having to open the password manager, search for something, hit enter, copy the username, go back, paste, copy password, copy 2FA, huge rigmarole to do that. It is just so simple to use. So as a happy 1Password user for many, many years now, there is a discount down below for you on either a family or a personal subscription. And again, a huge thank you to 1Password for sponsoring this video. Now, aside from the password manager, the thing about iPhone and iOS is that apps just feel so well made. Now I know on Android we have widgets and stacks, whereas on iPhone, we've only just been given the ability to move icons wherever we want to go on the home screen. But I have noticed that those widgets look and just work much better on iOS. And depending on the apps you're using, there are actually widgets that don't exist on an Android phone for the same apps. Dynamic Island, it's another great thing. Yeah, I know it sucks that there's this, big black bar thing there all the time. And I wish it wasn't there, 99% of the time as well. That's a given. But what they've done with this is actually useful in many, many situations. Now, as you're watching this video, I'm likely sat in an airport waiting to catch a flight. And I'm going to be using the Flighty app to track my flights. And that sits in the Dynamic Island. It shows me my gate number, my seat number, any delays with the flights. And with things like ordering an Uber, it shows me how far away it is, all without having to, constantly check and open the app each time. So yeah, does the Dynamic Island suck? Yes. But does Dynamic Island also work really, really nicely? Also, yes. And then we have these little quality of life improvements that Apple have, like Apple Pay. It's probably one of the most widely reliable, widely supported thing around. And it works just by tapping the end of your phone to pay. Now over on Android, some phones I've found have the NFC sensor further down the back of your phone. So you can't, you have to shift your grip. And in one particular car park where I have to use my phone to raise the barrier, having it on the end of the phone means I have that extra reach that I just don't have on an Android phone when I have to, use it and reach out to, swipe the contactless payment thing. And then you have Samsung Pay or Google Pay, and some bank cards work on one but not the other, but then you've got reward cards that only work in the other one. On Apple, it is just Apple Pay and everything works. There's also the best keyboard cursor control I've seen of any phone ever. You literally just hold down the spacebar and now you can literally move the cursor wherever you want to go. You can also take screenshots in any app, including banking apps, which just refuse to work over on Android. Really, really frustrating when I need to screenshot my bank statements for my accountant. And the accessories, my God, the accessories, MagSafe for one, having it built into the iPhone, such a killer thing to have. And I know Android works around this by buying a MagSafe case. But this again raises another issue because many case makers will only make cases for iPhones because they have 4 sizes of case to focus on a manufacturer, like the big Pro, the small Pro, the big regular, the small regular. Now do this for Android and it's the the 3 different sizes of the S24, then the Fold, the Flip, and then there's the A series, but now there's the Pixel, the Honor, the Xiaomi. Where do they stop? But in reality, they don't even start. Like MagMac make these incredible cases for the iPhone, and I've used them for years. They take MagSafe and then add a ton more magnets on them, so these cases stick to like anything metal, like gym equipment, microwaves, fridges, metal railings. That has like legit been something I use every single day. Now this is a brand new version, their Elite case that they've just released. A link down below for this for like 15% off or so. They've released this for the iPhone 16 Pro, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. And that's it. Like no regular 16 or 16 Plus, definitely no Android versions. But because they are looking at the demands, soon they're going to launch an Android version for the S24 Ultra, only the S24 Ultra, because it's one of the most popular Android phones. So they're having to pick like very, very carefully which phones they want to make a case for, because it's just, it's a lot of money to invest in design and molding and production and shipping for a case that only a small minority of people wants, compared to the millions and millions and millions of people who all have one same model, one same phone, or rather one of 4 models of the same iPhone. But at least as an iPhone user, you have that, wide range of accessories possible. There's also focus modes on iPhone, which I actually use all the time. Like when I start to work out or when I'm at the gym, my phone, my watch, even my laptop switches into my like gym mode. When I'm in the studio, I have a focus mode. When I'm at home, I have a family focus mode. And just all of these control the sorts of notifications I can receive, like who can call me, who can text me, and it just keeps me focused on what I should be focused on at the time, like work or fitness. Like when I'm at the gym, for example, I have all of my gym apps on the home screen, like Apple Music, Spotify, my workout app, ChatGPT as well, so I can talk to my like personal fitness trainer thing I have trained in there, and just other apps that I generally use between my workouts. Now I just love how you can totally change the look of your device, like the phone. It also changes your watch, your iPads, just based on which focus mode you're in. Like you can have totally different like wallpapers, home screens, notifications, all just automatically set. And then there is the maybe the elephant in the room, the Apple's new AI, or rather Apple Intelligence, as they wanted to call it. Now for me, AI across most Android devices has been kind of useless. Like I'm sure for some people in like specific scenarios, it's amazing to be able to, live translate. But to draw a stick figure and turn it into art or move an object in a photo, like, I don't know. I just don't find myself using any of it. So Apple Intelligence, at least what it is supposed to be coming, looks to me on the face of it to actually be the first, actually like useful AI. Now, don't get me wrong, like writing tools to change the tone of your email and Genmoji in particular to create, a T-Rex riding a surfboard, like all the kind of stuff that, to me at least, feels pretty useless. But using personal and contextual awareness for your calendar and messages and emails to accurately answer questions and using natural language to speak to it, that is pretty awesome. And even the summarized notifications are pretty cool just for catching up on a long conversation without having to read all of the messages in that conversation. So I think that Apple really are, at least I do hope, one of the first to actually do AI properly in a way that's useful in every day-to-day use. Now, moving on now, as an iPhone user, your phone kind of holds its value, which is great for you if you did want to upgrade to the latest phone each year. There's actually normally this sweet spot just before the new iPhone is launched where you can list your phone on eBay and get back a pretty decent amount of what you paid for it. Whereas, pretty much every Android user knows that trade-in values and resale values can really, really plummet. The Pixel 9 Pro Fold that literally just launched last month is already worth anywhere from like a third to a quarter of its value for trade-in. But where there are positives, there are of course some drawbacks. Like the fact that some apps and subscriptions just cost more than over on Android, like Patreon, Duolingo, Carrot Weather, YouTube Premium, and this applies to many other apps and subscriptions. Like, it's actually far cheaper to subscribe where you can from a desktop browser, and just that way you totally avoid like the Play Store or the App Store cut that gets taken from developer sales. You also don't get any discounts on anything from Apple, like ever. Like buying an iPhone and want a watch, an iPad, or maybe a laptop, you're paying full price every single time. Whereas you buy from Samsung, for example, you'll be offered additional products like discounts to encourage you to buy more than just a phone. Apple also still suffers from poor charging speed, something that they've slightly improved this year, but still not up to the standards we're seeing on many flagship Android phones nowadays. And even though your phone may have, 512 gig of storage or terabytes worth of storage, well, you can't really use it as traditional storage. You can't like plug your phone into your laptop like you can with an Android phone and then, drag and drop files around. Instead, you have to do it via this like weird iCloud, iDrive, maybe Google Drive or just something else. Oh, and of course, I guess the biggest downside of them all is choice, or rather lack of choice. You either buy a big or small Pro, or a non-Pro big or small non-Pro, or buy the expensive watch, the middle expensive watch, or the cheaper watch, unless you go for something like a Garmin, which does also work well with an iPhone. But like I said, with lack of choice comes amazing ecosystem integration. So the question of whether you should buy an iPhone or stick with an Android phone, or which one is better than you, is still ultimately down to you. Like, both of them are great. And if you are bored of using an Android phone, then absolutely try an iPhone. I'm sure it's just going to make using your phone a whole lot of fun again. Now, if you are someone who likes, tinkering and customizing, you might find the iPhone to be somewhat limited. But honestly, again, you're only going to know this if you give it a try. Now, one of the greatest things around Apple is their returns policy. Like, buy whatever phone you want, try it for 2 weeks, and then send it straight back if you don't like it. Now, if you're not sure which one to buy, then check out this video up here to help you decide, or check out my iPhone 16 review here, where you'll see that ultimately, whichever phone you choose, at the end of the day, it still doesn't really matter.